Hi there, welcome to BounceBack. I'm Dr. April, and today I'm going to be speaking on the wounded spirit. So I like to start my program off with a scripture verse, and today it is Proverbs 18:14, and it says, "The spirit of a man will sustain his infirmity, but a wounded spirit who can bear?" I want to look at what is a wounded spirit and how do you get a wounded spirit, and so I want to look at some things today. And let's look at what is a wounded spirit. A wounded spirit comes as a result of a reaction to negative words, events, actions, or a violation of your person or rights. A reaction, my friends, that crushes you. It knocks you down and from which you cannot seem to rise. It crushes an area of your life, your spirit, which is quite devastating in how it affects us. You know, when I think of a wounded spirit, I think of really being damaged, really being hurt, really being to the point where you just can't even get up because you're just so humiliated, you're so degraded, you're so down and out. And if that's you today, I would recommend that you get my book, Me and Bad Boys, Revealing the Hidden Darkness Behind Abuse. You can purchase it on Amazon.com. I talk about psychological abuse. I talk about emotional abuse and these things that wound the spirit, okay? Perhaps someone has said something to you that actually knocked you flat and you just can't get over it. How many know that those words have penetrated deeply into your spirit in a hurtful, crushing kind of way? And that's from Rodney Francis. I thought that says it pretty good. But to me, it's when our spirits are so crushed, someone has attacked the very essence of who we are. They've attacked our inner world. They've destroyed our sense of safety and have torn away at even our mental capacity to make decisions. Now that's what I'm talking about, a wounded spirit. Your sense of self-worth and self-respect no longer exists. Our spirits can be wounded by psychological and emotional abuse. So today I want to start off with some good working definitions. And here's a good working definition from KD Law Group on psychological abuse. It says, it's a type of abuse involving the use of verbal and social tactics in order to control someone's way of thinking. So you see, there's a matter of control, all right? Someone's way of thinking. How many know that abusers want power and control? Abusers will often convince the victim that they are crazy. They may manipulate them or make harmful threats towards them. Now, emotional abuse is a type of abuse that involves controlling someone's feelings and causing intense mental trauma, okay? Abusers will often demean their victim, engage in victim blaming, and cause their victim to undergo intense humiliation. You know, many tactics of psychological abuse are also classified as emotional abuse and vice versa. However, the distinguishing factor between the two is psychological abuse strongly affects a person's mental capacity, while emotional abuse affects what people feel. Psychological abuse affects what people think, okay? In emotional abuse, the abuser will undermine a woman's self-respect and self-worth. And this does go for, males as well, because there are women that are abusing men out there. Yes, it's not as prevalent, but it is going on out there. So I do want to bring that to the table. There are women beating up on men, okay? And what a sad situation this all is. But you might see in emotional abuse constant criticizing and name-calling, forbid her to make decisions, or screaming at her in public, or yelling and humiliating her in public. This is very sad stuff, and it's going on. It's all over the place, It's even in the church, and oftentimes church leaders do not know how to handle abuse when it's presented. Okay, and that's a whole nother show, but I want to talk right now about psychological abuse. Now, this great book from Mary Susan Miller, called No Visible Wounds, I'll tell you, she brings some awesome points to the table on this topic. I'm going to bring important terms such as gaslighting, brainwashing, and learned helplessness, okay? The first term I'm going to bring to the table right now is gaslighting. And this is a planned process of steadily convincing someone that they are crazy. It corrodes the foundation of logic on which a person has learned to make decisions and take action. It is to drive a woman over the edge of sanity. Okay? This term comes from the old movie Gaslighting, where Charles Boyer plots to make Ingrid Bergman lose her mind, all under this guise of care. All right? The abuser will use many mind games to make her think she is going crazy. He may hide her keys or constantly lie to her, say he didn't call her when he spoke to her about a half hour ago. In psychological abuse, cause does not lead to effect. The abuser constantly distorts cause and effect. He will emotionally batter for weeks, reinforcing patterns of humiliation and worthlessness, and suddenly he'll switch and be kind. Okay, so messing with the logic, messing up with her sense of her mental capacities there. One day he's sweet, one day he's crazy. He's angry and belittling her. So she doesn't really know who he is, okay? So, and then maybe a week later he starts screaming and yelling at her again. Good guy, bad guy, with no logic, no reason for the kindness, no reason for the meanness. In a mind warp, she's more now dependent on him than ever. Okay, she's even having difficulty making decisions because she really believes she can't even make one because she really believes she's going crazy. All right. This is a very sad situation. I have dealt with women who have been battered physically, emotionally, psychologically, and they come to me broken. They can't even make decisions. They're afraid to make any decision. They're afraid to move forward. They're so tired, they're withdrawn. They've been beaten down. Many of them have post-traumatic stress disorder from all the violence in the home. And, psychological abuse and emotional abuse is just as bad as physical abuse. It's all abuse, and no one deserves to be abused. And if you're out there and you're living this kind of life, there is help for you out there. There is domestic violence advocates. There's the National Domestic Hotline you can call, and then there are shelters that will put you up. And I know it's not the ideal situation. Who wants to pack up their kids and go live in a shelter? I understand, but you must consider the safety for yourself and also for your children. Sometimes abused women, they're so busy trying to survive, they forget how their children are being affected by watching this abuse on a daily basis. Okay. So the second technique I want to speak on is brainwashing. This is a method by which a captor, through coercive control, bends the mind of his captives to his will. Thought control, by first undercutting health and strength. They might use deprivation of sleep and not having enough food for survival. Okay, so this is the first step. And then they isolate them from friends and families. And then they use repeated propaganda where he or she may maximize mistakes and creates others to form in her mind more mistakes and more mistakes. That's all she could think about. Oh my God, what if I make a mistake? What if I do something wrong? I can tell you, I've been in an abusive situation. I still battle with this stinking devil. What did I do wrong? And if you're out there, I want to tell you, you haven't done anything wrong. He has an issue with power and control and wants to dominate and manipulate, and he doesn't want to lose his slave. Get where I'm coming from now, because this is serious. I'm talking straight up to somebody today. All right? And this will not get better on its own accord. It will not. But there's a great deal of help out there. And, I suggest that you would take it if you're in this type of relationship. I've done several shows on domestic violence. This is perhaps one of my I think it's my third one going on now. Okay. He will keep her in a constant state of anxiety. He will make sure that she is never sure whether he will hurt her, never sure whether her efforts will please or enrage him, never sure that she can follow the orders properly. I can remember trying to do everything to please my abuser, even to the point where I would clean the house for 8 hours and he would come home and just say, well, you left a speck of carpet fresh on the rug there, so, you're no good and you can't do anything right anyhow. These kinds of things really wound the spirit, okay? These kinds of things keep the people tiptoeing, eggshell walking, and confused. The psychological abuser uses threats to create anxiety, like playing with knives on the table. Just having the knives out on the table. She's wondering, oh my God, is he going to use that on me? Holding a fist to her face, putting a hot spatula to her face, and let's say, well, he didn't do it, did he? But do you understand that she's afraid that at any moment he could have put that hot spatula in her face? Sometimes we don't think this thing's through. You understand? The expert abuser uses the children as the most lethal weapon of all, threatening to beat them, kidnap them, going to court, perhaps to prove you unfit. Yes, this is going on a daily basis. He will use anything to dominate, to keep her under his dominion. My God, this is so important. The stuff I'm teaching today is so important. Please bear with me as I continue. I know it's a lot of information, but it's so important. I want to see you get healed of that wounded spirit. And I'll tell you, through Christ, you can get healed, set free, my God, and delivered. Yes, through Christ we can do all things, who strengthens us. Okay? Psychological abusers operate like they don't need walls or chains. Okay? They chain the person by learned helplessness. Why am I saying that? All right. He doesn't need, to box her into a wall. He doesn't need to wrap her up in chains. All right? He has got her in such a state, she's going to remain there, stuck, not being able to move forward, subservient, if you will. And they do this, there's a process called learned helplessness. And this is a mental state whereby abused women are unable to resist the manipulative pressure. She knows there's nothing she can do to change any outcome, and if she attempts to, she fails anyhow. So she's got this learned helplessness thing going on. Many fall into clinical depression, whereby they have loss of initiative, they've totally resigned, and they have an inability to handle even small chores. Many of them are just walking around in a fog-like state. Abused women, listen to this by Susan Miller, I thought it was a great quote. Abused women often grope for a wall to keep from collapsing into darkness, but leaned on the only wall she can reach, the man who led her into a world askew. In my next session, we're going to talk a little bit more about the abuser's tactics and psychological abuse, so please stay tuned. Hey, my new book has just come out, and you can be purchasing it on Amazon.com. The name of the book is Prophetic Supernatural Streams from Father's Heart to Yours. If you love the prophetic ministry, this book is for you. If you want to learn how to operate and move more in the prophetic, this book is for you. You will learn how to test the spirits, how to discern the voice of God, how to flow, really flow in prophetic accurately. And you also want to learn how maybe woundedness affects the prophetic flow. I'll tell you, this is a book for you. Get it, purchase it on Amazon.com. Well, welcome back. I'm continuing on speaking on intimate partner violence, domestic violence, psychological abuse, emotional abuse, physical abuse, sexual abuse. They all are clumped under that category. Intimate partner violence, domestic violence. Okay, so I want to talk about how the abuser, you know what he does? He tells her what to think and what to feel. All right? She loses herself in all of this. There's no will left. She surrendered her will to him. She just goes through life in a fog-like state. She's just going through the motions of life. She's not living, she's existing, okay? And so we could say that he deposits himself into her, all right? He also may lock her out of a home or lock her in the home. Okay, this is unlawful imprisonment, And no one should be locking you in the house. You didn't do any crime, okay, where you should be put behind bars like this person is doing to you, all right? How many know that isolation and loneliness damage the psyche? Women cope with the escalation of abuse in one of two ways. They either fight it or submit in the way of like a cornered animal, either bares its teeth or falls right on its back and like, I'm resigned, I give up. I mean, I'm just going to do what he wants because I can't stand him blowing up like a madman, and I can't stand, and then all of that chaos in the home for hours, and then after that's over, he acts like nothing happened and like everything's okay, and now he wants sex. Okay? I know what I'm talking about on this topic. I was a counselor for years. I've dealt with this topic. It is my area of expertise. So please listen to me. There's help out there for you. All right. Now I want to talk about Biderman's chart of coercion. 8 actions that a controller imposes. The first one is isolation. Ginny McCarthy says it's the most effective way to set the stage for brainwashing, since it removes her support system, and forces her to be dependent on him. He's not going to want you to talk to your family. He's not going to want to talk to your friends because they're going to tell you, you got to get out of this mess. All right? So he knows that, okay? Don't think he doesn't know. He does know that, all right? He knows what he's doing, all right? And he's isolating you on purpose, all right? Number 2 here, monopolization of perception. Okay. He's playing with her mind, how she's perceiving things. She can't have any phone calls. She can't go to any club activities. There's certain TV shows she shouldn't be watching. And because you know what, if she watches that, she might just get a reality check when she sees these things. Another one is induced debility. And what does that mean? Overwork and undersleep wears down her resistance. How many know when you're working so hard and you're not sleeping well, you're just not at your game. You're just not up to par. And they wear them down. The abuser will wear the victim down. He may have her working to the bone, okay. I've seen many of them where they keep them barefoot and pregnant, okay. Just keep them home, keep them working, and this way she'll never leave because she's got tons of kids, and where's she going to go? All right, another form of control. He may use threats with she has a continual fear for her safety. Also, occasional indulgences. These kinds of things throw a woman off guard by playing with her feelings of hope and despair like a yo-yo. She will submit to his demands to keep the yo-yo in an upswing. And what do I mean by all of this? Well, he's going to promise her that he's going to change. He's going to bring her flowers. He's going to treat her good. He's going to do little special things for her. And she says, oh, he loves me. He won't abuse me again. Well, there is a cycle of violence where, he will blow up again. Okay. And then there'll be that little honeymoon stage again where he's promising he's going to change and things are so good and you really want to believe it. He's playing with your mind. All right. Demonstrating omnipotence. Well, he reminds her of her helplessness with such acts of hiding her car keys and locking her in the room. And so he has this like, I'm king of the castle. You will listen to me. You are subservient to me. You will do everything I say. I'm the breadwinner. And you know what? And I own you. You are my property. I have papers on you. Okay. Degradation. He may drum into her things like, she's fat, she's stupid, she's ugly, she's talentless. He lowers her self-esteem to where she feels unworthy of better treatment. And I can tell you, wow, I've heard stories like, you were so pretty when I first married you. Look at you now. Look how fat, look how big you are. Look at them there hips. Look at that double chin you're getting. Look at you. And where she starts to feel like she's ugly, she's worthless. She takes in what he's saying to her, and now nobody else would want me anyway. I might as well just stay here. And that is his plan. He wants you to feel bad about yourself. So you will never leave him. You will never look elsewhere for anything better. And you aren't even deserving of anything better. Okay, so this is how he's planning, he's plotting, he's strategic. Okay, don't just think this is happening by accident. This is strategic warfare to keep you in bondage. All right, and the enemy is using that person to keep you in bondage. Okay, because we're not fighting against flesh and blood. Okay, let me tell you. But he is responsible for his behaviors. But the enemy is using him to get to you, to keep you bound, to keep you from advancing, to keep you from fulfilling your kingdom destiny. Hear what I'm saying today. All right, he may enforce trivial demands, makes her adhere to insignificant requirements, such as dressing as he wishes. Okay, no, I don't want you to wear that dress, you're going to wear that dress. No, you can't wear those pants, I want you to wear these pants. These kinds of things. Eating promptly at a specific time. No, we eat at 7. I want dinner on the table at 7, and I don't care what happens with the kids. I don't care that they were delayed or you had a PTA meeting. No, we will eat promptly at 7 p.m. Okay? So there's like these laws and these rules and these regulations that he makes her adhere to. And then he conditions her to obey even weightier demands. Now I want to talk to you, Carol Lambert. She has a wonderful article called 6 Troubling Signs of Psychological Abuse. Okay, she says your controlling partner creates an experience in your relationship that can cause major negative changes in you, leading to many profound losses. What does she mean by this? If you were confident and self-assured before your relationship, you are now likely to find yourself suddenly self-doubting and insecure. Look for these signs. You used to be pretty on your game, you were able to maybe hold a job and people liked you and you were a social butterfly, and now you're self-doubting and you're insecure and you don't want to venture out. Look for these things. If you felt grounded and trusted yourself once before, now you're likely to become confused, indecisive. If you were happy and content, you're now maybe feeling emotionally exhausted and anxious. If you are competent and thought well of yourself, you may now come to feel you are unsure and incapable. You may now feel, you may feel fear, terror, shame, guilt. You may now even be suffering from mental health conditions such as depression, anxiety, trauma, PTSD. You may also be suffering hypervigilance, high alert. That's all that means. You're on high alert, waiting for the next shoe to drop, and you live your life on high alert because you never know when he's going to explode or she's going to go crazy and start throwing things and yelling at you and raising up that volume, so you just will simply just shrink back and cower, okay? You may feel like you're crazy, but you are not. You are not crazy. Ask God to reveal truth to you in the most inward parts. Many abused women will live in denial for a very long time, will minimize the abuse, will make excuses for the abuse, may even hold on to some religious concepts to actually maintain that relationship. And what do I mean by that? Well, God hates divorce, so I'm stuck here forevermore. I'll tell you what, God hates violence, okay? And he is and has already violated the marital covenant by not keeping you safe. The marriage covenant was designed to provide a covering for you to keep you safe. And if you're in this kind of relationship, you are not safe. And you know it, because you never know when he just might blow again. All right. Become clear about what is happening in your relationship by learning more about controlling behaviors, like I'm talking to you today. Learn about their impact and the best way to respond. And that's from Carol Lambert. Now here's my suggestions, okay? Ask God for strategies. All right, you must have a safety plan. I would not recommend just darting out and just leaving and having nowhere. I say have a safety plan in place. You know where you're going to go. You have your very special important documents. You have a good support system on the outside ready to aid you, ready to help you. Never just tell a woman pack up. Why don't you just pack up and leave? You're already adding to the shame she already feels. She wants to go, but hey, I got 4 kids. who's going to help me take care of these kids? And he controls the checkbook, so I don't got no money to make a move. I mean, there's a lot of dynamics. Intimate partner violence is very complex. Okay, it's a web. You get caught up in a web and you just don't know how to get out. Okay, and there are restraining orders that you can get from the court. All right, and you know what's really sad? Many have been treated like this for so long, they simply accept it as a way of life. Maybe you grew up in a chaotic home. Okay, and so like this chaos is very normal to you. There's nothing wrong. I mean, this is how life is. And you made your bed, now you got to lie in it, and that's that. Well, no, that's not that. Okay, God wants you to live the abundant life that He has promised. Okay, right now you're just, if you're in this type of relationship, you're just existing. You're tolerating. You're minimizing the abuse. You're making excuses for your abuser. All right, you're living in fantasy island. Okay, believing it's going to get better. And you know what? These things don't get better. Matter of fact, it escalates. I really felt to put that out there because, we have this like silver lining. Oh, it'll get better in time. If I just do everything right, then nothing, he'll change. The only one's going to change that man is God. Okay, and He's the only one who has the capacity to change an individual. All right. Some women out there, they're just clueless but knows, they're clueless as to what's really happening around them, but no, it doesn't feel right. Some are busy trying to keep the abuser from blowing his stack. There's little time to even think of themselves, okay? Some feel they have to endure for Christ's sake or it's their cross to bear. Some don't feel like psychological abuse is that bad. At least they don't have black eyes. That's the minimization of abuse. Churches reinforce this with the forgiveness theme rather than confront the bad behavior. Proverbs 12:18 says this, "The words of the reckless pierce like swords, but the tongue of the wise brings healing." Psychological warfare eats away at the person's mental capacities, and this is very, very serious. I could tell you after leaving my abusive relationship, I was in very sad shape. Matter of fact, I was on the L train, in New York, if you haven't picked up my New York accent. And there was a woman there, and she was just like staring in the air, and it was almost like she wasn't really with us. And the Lord says, if you stay in that relationship, He told me, you're going to end up just like her. I'll tell you what, it scared me. And I started to make some changes. Not quickly, but strategically. I planned on how to leave that relationship. So if you're out there today, let me just close in prayer. Father, I just ask, Lord, that you would give them the truth. Let them receive truth in their most inward parts. Let them no longer minimize or make excuses or blaming herself for their abusive behavior. Lord, I ask that you would draw them to the place where they can get the help that they need. I thank you for divine intervention at this time in Jesus' name. See you next time on Bounce Back.